By now, we should all know just how powerful trains are, but not every encounter ends in twisted metal. Coming up, we're looking at close calls on the railroad. First, surveillance cameras capture several near misses, and there's a lesson to be learned from each one. Then, police rush to save a railroad worker's life after he collapses on the job. And what happens when fire threatens the right-of-way? Plus, I'll share a couple of my own close calls. All that and more is next. You know, trains can cause a lot of damage when things go wrong, but for all the incidents we see on the news or going viral on social media, there are countless more situations where people narrowly escape danger. That's what we're focusing on today, those close calls and the important lessons that go along with them. We begin in Chamblee, Georgia, on Norfolk Southern's busy main line that goes from Atlanta to Greenville, South Carolina. This person was walking down the middle of the tracks. While this may be the fastest way to get to your destination, it's dangerous and illegal. And you'd be surprised how quickly a train can sneak up on you. Luckily, this person got out of the way, although I don't know why the engineer didn't give them any warning. Next up, we're looking at a very effective safety campaign from the Utah Transit Authority. They used footage from surveillance cameras to show why you have to pay attention anytime you're around the tracks. Here's something I've personally seen far too many times. People going around the gates when a train is coming. These folks were lucky they didn't get hit. Hopefully, they'll pay more attention to the warning devices in the future. Now, obviously, you should never try to beat the train, but another reminder from these clips is that if you see multiple tracks, there may be multiple trains approaching. Of course, many of us are constantly on our phones. The message you should get from these clips is really simple. Don't be distracted while you're around the train tracks. And this is kind of a no-brainer. Whether you're a pedestrian or driving a car, look both ways before crossing the tracks. And finally, the most heart-stopping footage. A child runs up to the doors of a commuter car and ends up falling in between the train and the platform. Luckily, the kid appears to be okay, but this is a reminder to parents to hold children's hands and keep a close eye on them when they're around the tracks. Okay, now to some more close calls at grade crossings. We've already seen this once already. Drivers rushing over railroad crossings as warning lights flash and the gates go down. I've personally never recorded anyone getting hit, but this maneuver definitely got my attention. It looked like this truck driver in Austell, Georgia was ready to go around the gates as the train approached. Fortunately, he made the right decision and backed up. We should all know to get out of the way of emergency vehicles when the lights and sirens are on. But trains still have the right-of-way, and this fire truck had to wait. Of course, sometimes the emergency is on or near the railroad. I honestly thought a train was on fire when I pulled up to this scene in Atlanta, Georgia. Luckily, that was not the case. It appeared all this smoke was coming from a homeless camp under this bridge. And firefighters quickly put it out. The flames were very visible in this scene. NJ Transit Police posted this video showing a brush fire burning near the tracks in Pensacola, New Jersey. This happened in late 2024, which was a very dry period for this part of the U.S. Fortunately, the fire was put out before it damaged the railroad. I realized what was happening here when I played back my footage. Now, if you look closely, you can actually see smoke coming from underneath this rail car. My best guess is the brakes were either sticking or the car's handbrake was left on. But as far as I know, the train arrived safely at its destination. Railroads strategically place defect detectors up and down the right-of-way to find problems like these before they become catastrophic. Okay, here's a recording of one of those defect detectors in action.
CSX Equipment Defect Detector, milepost 564.0.
This happened in Atlanta in September 2024 after prolonged storms pounded this part of Georgia.
Dispatcher, Jacksonville, answer.
That is G346, over.
G346, 25, over.
That coal train hit a tree just north of the DD, and we drug some debris of it across the DD, got dragging equipment, axle 1.
Fortunately, the crew was able to solve the problem without incident.
Dispatcher, Jacksonville, answer, over.
G346, we're on the move, got the limb removed, over.
The next day, I went to the scene. I think this was the tree in question, but it's hard to say for sure. This is probably the closest call of them all. A man's life was in danger, and police were just hoping to get to him in time.
Go, let's go. Come on.
Talk about a scary situation. CSX employees were out working on the right-of-way when one of them collapsed. It all happened in Conyers, Georgia on October 19th, 2021. This footage is from the body cam of a Conyers police officer. Now, that officer had years of experience and was also a certified paramedic. But the other one had been on patrol for less than 1 week. Both men immediately rushed in to render aid. Here's one of the men giving CPR as the other one gets an automated external defibrillator or AED ready.
2, shock delivered.
Even though this was definitely a close call, according to Conyers police, the man who had the medical emergency on the tracks survived. Those officers were truly in the right place at the right time when their training kicked in. Some of the last scenarios we'll look at involve vehicles and even a large animal on the tracks. Okay, so train tracks are obviously a no parking zone. Massachusetts Bay Transit Authority police say the driver of this SUV was arrested for unlicensed and negligent operation. The vehicle landed right on the third rail, but no injuries were reported. A friend of mine took this video of a car carrier that got stuck on the tracks in Lithia Springs, Georgia. Luckily, he knew right away to call the railroad to make sure no trains came. A large tow truck was called in to winch the truck off the tracks. Unfortunately, not every situation ends like this. Here's dashcam footage from Conyers, Georgia, of a different auto carrier getting hit. So, what if you come across a situation like this? Well, one thing you can do if there's no immediate danger is look for a blue and white sign like this one. These are called Emergency Notification System or ENS signs. They have an 800 number you can call, along with the crossings number that you can give to the operator to tell them exactly where you are. So far, we've seen what happens when cars and people have close calls on the railroad. But what about animals? Get this. In December 2023, folks in Newark, New Jersey spotted a bull on the tracks. NJ Transit Police took these pictures as they tried to get the situation under control. They eventually did, but it's unclear where the animal actually came from. Okay, so believe it or not, I've actually had a few close calls of my own. I learned something from each one, and I hope you do too. I used to think shots like this, in the middle of the tracks, were really cool. Well, until this happened. The wind from the train passing picked up the camera and slammed it into the underside of one of the passenger coaches. Fortunately, the GoPro I was using was fine, well, aside from the protective lens. That being said, I don't think getting a shot between the rails is worth the risk. This one is for all you drone pilots out there. I don't care how many years you've been flying or how good of a pilot you think you are. Always keep an eye on your drone. I looked down for a few seconds and this happened. Luckily, I was able to safely recover the drone and only 2 of its propellers were damaged. Those were easily replaced, but drones are a big investment, so you should always be careful and follow any applicable rules and regulations. One lesson I've learned over the years is to never stand too close to the tracks as a train passes. You never know if, for example, there's something hanging off the side. The one thing I hadn't learned when I was recording this is that even if you've set your camera up near the tracks and let it roll while you stand at a safe distance, a fast freight train can still blow it over. I lucked out again this time and all my equipment was fine. And afterwards, I decided to purchase a few small sandbags to put on the tripod for situations like this. I hope you've enjoyed this brief look at close calls on the railroad, and more importantly, I hope you learned something about railroad safety. Now, before we end this one, I wanted to mention that as of this recording in November of 2024, this channel is getting really close to 100,000 subscribers, so if you could help me reach that milestone, I'd really appreciate it. It helps out a lot. Okay, that's it for now. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.